Hi guys, and welcome to another video lesson. Today we're going to be taking a look at adding rests to our quaver grooves. So as we already know, grooves take their name from the cymbal pattern. We're playing a quaver groove, so we must be playing quavers on the cymbal. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'll be playing all of the grooves today on the hi-hat cymbal, but you can just as easily transfer them over to the ride cymbal and play them there as well. So we'll start with the first groove that we're going to look at. I'll play it all the way through. I won't give you any more information than that. I'll just play it all the way through at 70 beats per minute so you can have a listen, and then we'll break it down and work out exactly what's going on. So you probably saw that funny squiggle in the music after the bass drum. That is a rest. It's a 1 beat rest or a quarter note rest. Now, here's where the drums are a little bit different to other instruments when it comes to rests. If you're a saxophone player, for example, you're either blowing into the saxophone, making a sound, or not blowing into the saxophone, not making a sound. You're playing or you're resting. You can't do both at the same time. On the drums, we can play up to 4 things at once. We've got 2 legs and 2 arms, so we can have lots of different sounds going on at once. So when we have rests in drum music, it sometimes means, the same as it does for the saxophone player, don't play anything at all, but often it will mean rest a particular part of the drum kit. So in the grooves that we're looking at today, the rests are written down the bottom of the music, so that tells us they are resting the bass drum, which is at the bottom of the drum kit. So we're going to take that groove and break it in half and do each half one at a time. We'll start with the first half of the groove that doesn't have the rest in it. It does have an extra bass drum on 2 and though, so we've got to make sure that we're putting our hi-hat and our bass drum exactly at the same time on that 2 and. I'll play the first half of the bar and rest beats 3 and 4 and I'll loop it round. We're going at 70 beats per minute today. If you need to pause the video at any point and work up to that speed, practice things a bit slower and build up, that's absolutely fine. Here we go. Right, so here's the second half of the bar that doesn't have the bass drum on beat 3 where we would normally expect to find it. That's where our rest is. So again, I'll play just this half of the bar, I'll rest beats 1 and 2, and I'll loop it round and round. Now let's put both halves back together to complete the groove. Remember, the temptation will be to put the bass drum on beat 3 where we're used to putting it. That's where our rest is. So 1 and 2 and on the bass drum, and then 3 and with no bass drum. Here it comes at 70 beats per minute. You know what's coming next? We've learnt a new groove, so we're going to put it in a 3-1 resolve. Whenever you learn a new groove or a new fill, put it in a resolve so you can hear what it sounds like in context. Here it comes. So we've looked at a 1-beat rest in a groove. It looks a bit like a funny squiggle in the music. Now let's look at a half-beat rest or a quaver rest. I always think these look a bit like a 7. One of my students once said they look like Elvis's haircut in profile, which has always stayed with me. I think that's a really good way of trying to remember what quaver rests look like. If you don't agree, that's absolutely fine. By the way, that's not the official standpoint on quaver rests, but they look a bit like a funny 7 or Elvis's haircut. Either of those is fine, whatever helps you remember it. Here comes the whole groove, so you can hear what it sounds like, and then we'll break it down just like we did with the previous one. So let's have a look at the first half of the groove. Well, the good news is it's the same as the standard quaver groove that you already know. There's hi-hats playing 1 and 2 and there's a bass drum on 1 and a snare drum on 2. I'll play the first half of the bar and then rest beats 3 and 4, and I'll loop that round at 70 beats per minute. Right, the trickier second half of the bar. This is where our rest is. So we have our rest on beat 3, and then we have our bass drum on 3 and. So we've rested 3 where the bass drum would normally go, but we've replaced it on 3 and. You could say we've moved the bass drum forward from beat 3 to 3 and. Whichever way you want to think about it, whichever one makes it easier for you to understand is absolutely fine. The important thing is we're used to putting bass drums on 3. We're not doing that today. We've moved this bass drum to 3 and. Here it comes at 70 beats per minute. I will rest the first half of the bar and loop the second half round and round. Now let's put both halves back together to complete the groove. Finally, let's put that groove in a 3-1 resolve as well. So there you go, rests in quaver grooves. Now we've only added a crotchet rest and a quaver rest to our groove, and we've added them in the same place, beat 3. What happens if you move those rests around? We talked about moving the bass drum from 3 to 3 and. We put the rest on 3 and then the bass drum on 3 and. What happens if you put the rest somewhere else? What happens if you rest the snare drum and move them? What happens if you add more drums to the groove and then put rest in different places? You get the idea. There's lots and lots of grooves to be created by adding rests and moving snare drums and bass drums around. An easy way to remember it, if you like, when it comes to any groove, you've got 3 choices. You can add something, take something away or rest it, or move something. You can also do any combination of those 3 things as well. Have some fun, experiment, see what different grooves you can come up with. That's it for today's lesson on rests and grooves. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. If you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Stay safe and enjoy your drumming.